The Box Seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors. Hi everyone, welcome to this edition of your Box Seat. Yes, it's been a challenging time for so many people around the country. Cyclone Gabrielle has affected many people in many ways, and Michael Guerin, it has affected us because we had to put our show back a day, not that that's a big deal. But our man, Glenn Bourne, he's based in the Hawke's Bay, that's where the show comes out of. He does all our editing. Didn't have power for a couple of days, which is not ideal when you're doing that sort of a job, but I can tell you he and his family, they're all safe, the power's back on, and some positivity in what's been a really challenging time.
Yeah, very sobering week, Greg. A big hi to everybody watching around New Zealand and Australia. I realise we've picked up some viewers after our sister show In the Gig became no more. People have lost their lives during Cyclone Gabrielle, and we feel for those people who live in our country with us, and we feel for their families and everybody affected by it. And people who have lost the ability to live in their own homes, Greg. So it's been bloody tough and really hard when you read those news updates because we're all part of the same community. So sad time for the country. Racing will still go on, and as has often happened in my career, Greg, when there are sad times, you use racing as a distraction. So hopefully we can distract people from some of those tough times over the next hour. Some of that distraction comes up this weekend because Cyclone Gabrielle, as horrific as it has been, hasn't affected the racing things that are going to go ahead this weekend. So Harness Million Friday night, there's some big gallops on Saturday, and of course Menangle Saturday night. And then the sales on Sunday. All those things are going ahead. There's been no damage at Cambridge, so Harness Million will roll on. The weather, bizarrely, should be quite nice by then. And of course, Sunday at Karaka for the sales, which rolls into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week at Christchurch. A couple of trees have come down at Karaka, Greg. Nothing major there. I was there for the gallops 2 weeks ago when it was horrifically raining, and everything still went ahead as normal. So the sales kick off, Greg, at noon on Sunday. We'll talk about those shortly, and of course Harness Million night after we have a bit of a celebration of a very special Southern man. Yeah, absolutely, Michael. Looking forward to getting into Nathan Williamson and getting to that 1,000 wins last weekend. I just do want to take a moment, though, to thank our friends from the TAB who put a few people on standby, the Michaels, Karinas, Everard Petrie, who was waiting in the wings to put the show together. I know for the people watching it probably doesn't mean a lot to you, but it means a lot to us because without them, we wouldn't have been able to put this week's show together. So a big thank you to our friends at the TAB. Right, Nathan Williamson, number 27 to get into the 1,000 win club, and I got a chance to have a chat to him earlier in the week off the back of a pretty strong celebration. Well, congratulations, Nathan. 1,000 win club, 27th into that illustrious group. I'm sure that you celebrated in an appropriate fashion.
Yeah, thank you very much, Greg. We did have a large night on Sunday night. It was great to tick that off, and real honour to join such an illustrious group.
You got there pretty quickly, and I suppose when you go back to Brooker, when you first started driving back in about 05, 06, somewhere around that period, and I think the first two wins were with the same horse for your dad, it would have seemed a heck of a long way off.
Yeah, it certainly did. Look, obviously Brooker seems many moons ago, but just something you're just always just working towards, I suppose, winning as many races as you can along the way, and obviously to get there, I've had a lot of help, and obviously couldn't have done it without all the trainers and drivers that have, trainers and owners that have put me on. And it's been a long road so far, but in saying that, it's come quite quickly to get to that type of figure. So couldn't be more happy, and thrilled to get it on the home track.
Yeah, well, that's the other great part about it. Janaka's Delight for Brett Gray, who you do have a great association with, and you've driven many winners for. And you came on SENZ Trot Talk and said to us you thought you might get it done on the first, and that was the case. A pacing bred trotter. There's a little bit of uniqueness about this.
Yeah, thrilled to do it for Brett. Obviously, he's been a good friend of mine for a lot of years, and Janaka's Delight was sort of just a horse on the day. I thought if she could get around that first bend safely, she'd take a bit of catching. So, yeah, it was good to get it done in the first race and out of the road for the rest of the day. And, yeah, no, look, it was special, obviously, on the home track as well. And, you know, the family there and everything, and Mum come down. So, no, it was great.
All right, one season there, it was about 2016, you had 100 wins. That was prior to you really started ramping up the training side of your business. Is that therefore unrealistic going forward? You're never going to be able to get to those sort of figures because you're so committed to your team.
That's right, Greg. I used to do a lot more travel, and that season I just sort of had a bit of a bumper season I was driving a lot of good horses, and it just everything seemed to pan out, and you know, had a great season. And towards the end of that season, I did travel a wee bit to try and you know, accomplish that 100 wins in a season goal. So yeah, probably unrealistic into the future. We're obviously training a good number of horses now and concentrating on that. So yeah, probably not something that's going to happen anytime soon. But look, I'm certainly hopeful that I can you know, keep driving a good amount of winners.
All right, you've driven some special horses. Is Springbank Richard still the benchmark?
Yeah, I mean, I've been really lucky, Greg, obviously, as you say, to drive some really nice horses. And Dad had a great group of trotters when I worked for him there that were, you know, they were all pretty good, you know. So lucky enough to drive one over Kenny on race day in a junior race, and one on her at Addington. That was special, and she was a great mare. And, you know, Jasmine's Gift, I ended up winning a Group 1 on her, and she was a great mare too. So those two are really good mares, but obviously Springbank Richard was the one who took me places. And, yeah, no, he was my best mate. So, no, it was, you know, he was a special horse.
Yeah, winning that Dominion in 09, I know how cool that was for you. Right, you've joined your brother Matthew and a couple of other brothers from down south, Clark and Ken Barron. So, you know, there's only so many sets of brothers. The Dunns have obviously done it, and the De Philippis have done it. So I suppose that just adds to it, Nathan.
Oh, it certainly does. You know, it is special to get in that 1,000 win club with Maddie, and you know, I know Mum and Dad are really proud of, you know, what I suppose all their children have been able to achieve. But yeah, to have two of us be in the 1,000 win club from little old Oamaru, and yeah, no, it's pretty special, and I'm sure they're very proud of it.
Nathan, life goes on. You've got yearling sales tours and the ability to buy a few, and you've had a good strike rate at that. So you'll be looking forward to that over the next 10 days.
Yeah, really am, Greg. I love the sales time of year, and getting around the yearlings and having a look and trying to, you know, select the next Pembroke Playboy or Ragazzo Mac or one of them. So, no, it is exciting. It's an exciting time of year, and really looking forward to next week.
Mate, you've come a long way from chasing role model around the paddock in your short shorts, and get your 1,000 wins is quite remarkable. You're 100 behind Matty, mate, so keep chasing them down. We've got to keep it up a wee bit. But congratulations on that on behalf of the Harness Racing Fraternity. Well deserved, and bring on the next 1,000.
Hey, thanks very much, Greg. Really special. Cheers, mate.
And a big thank you to Nathan for taking the time out to have a chat to us. He's a gun. He always has been, Michael. I'm so pleased he's got to that figure. You could see what it means to him to join his brother Matthew. And, yeah, he's always been an outstanding talent in the sulky. And if he hadn't had or got such a big training team now, he would have got past that figure a lot earlier. It's
a hell of an effort when you're training and driving in the south, where obviously, you know, you drive your own horses but other people's horses, but there's still a lot of the drives every week are taken, Greg. Yep. You know, half the drives, because there's a lot of trainer drivers down there. So, good guy, Nathan. Person I would trust, person I'd be happy to have a horse with. Anything you want to say about a guy or a girl in harness racing, I have positive things, those things to say about Nathan. So, remarkable family effort when you consider what Phil and Bev have done in their careers out of Oamaru, which isn't the easiest place in the world to train a horse out of. And while it's still a few years away, and sometimes we have to drag him out of the nightclubs, eventually Brad will get there too. I think he's on about 450, Greg, with quite a few Group 1s in Australia. That'd be remarkable to think 3 brothers from a family where their father hasn't had a massive team to help them all the way through, so they've had to make their own ways in the world, the Williamson brothers. Very proud to call them friends, Greg. Very proud of what they're able to achieve. And if you took those 3 names out of Oamaru South, Greg, harness racing would look enormously different and enormously poorer for them not being there. So probably a family who 20 years ago many people in harness racing didn't really know, and only in the last 10 years have come to national prominence, but man, they've had an impact. With all the boys, or two of the boys so far having children, Greg, that impact might be going on for quite some time.
Yeah, and long may it continue. Congratulations once again, Nathan. On the show tonight, we're going to preview the New Zealand Bloodstock Harness Million on Friday night, Addington race. Of course, we'll go back and have a look at Addington Group 1 glory last week for Kelly's Delight, Bob Butt and Blair Orange. We'll also try and find you a couple of winners at the back end of the show and have a look at the Renwick Farms draft in terms of the sale next week. Of course, those horses, the trotting sale on Monday, the paces on the Tuesday and Wednesday will be sold. Right, let's go to Friday night at Alexandra Park. It's Auckland Trotting Club meeting at Cambridge as a result of the floods 3 weeks ago. Son of Mac was excellent last time, Michael. That's him in front in the hands of Tony Hula. He rated 54.3 and was too strong. Storming home, though, a horse that you have a lot of time for and a horse that you think can win this week in Merlin.
I think it was a good lead-up race, Greg, because it gave us an indication of the fact that Merlin won't just blast over top of these horses, and then if a Son of Mac or an Alta Meteor or Charlie Brown get in front of him, they're going to be hard to beat. Add to that this week, because look at these horses here. You know these horses now. There's Tony Hurley with Kyle Marshall making the very mature decision to put the Iceman and the Sulky behind this horse. But when you see that race, and then you think, okay, say they all improve 2 lengths, but then you add 3 from the Purdon barn. So Sinbad, Sherlock, who's got the worst of the draws, and With Style, and all of them being really forward at the workouts. Here's Sherlock last week at Pukekohe. Outside Sherlock is Millwood Nike, who has to sit parked and comes to the line okay, but Sherlock obviously holding it. In between them is Artisan from Barry and Scott's team. So when you look at that, Greg, and you see the times, With Style was really good. Susitra, who we're going to see in the fillies race later on, was also really good. When you see all that, Greg, here's With Style, mentioned, time was quick with Style earlier. When you see these and you say, well, is that enough to beat the horses we just saw in the race? And maybe that's the difference, Greg, with the second line draws. Merlin could potentially work a little bit harder because he's had a race under his belt than, say, Sherlock, who hasn't. But a lot's going to depend on what happens early here, how they sort themselves out. I've spoken to some of the trainers involved, Greg. Son of Mac, they've got no choice but to go forward, even though they're drawn barrier 7. Steve Telfer said with Alta Meteor, he's not super quick, but our first plan is to roll to the lead if we can get there. We know Charlie Brown's going forward, and I presume With Style can't go back. So I see a whole heap of pressure here early and then sorting themselves out. Where that leaves Sherlock, who I presume has to get away from the inside of the second line, and how far that puts him back behind a horse like Merlin, who now comes in behind its own stablemate, sooner the better. I think it sets up nicely for Merlin, Greg, but I think it's a really interesting, tricky race, and there's about 6 horses who can win it. So I'm going with Merlin because I think the 1 run under his belt helps, and I think Zach Butcher drives Cambridge so well. What do you make of the Harness Million for 200 on Friday night?
Yeah, well, the market came out and he was a $3 chance. Merlin, he's now into $2.40. Money for Son of Mac, $6.50. I think that's about right. Sherlock's going to need luck. The second of those workouts we showed, Michael, Sinbad ran second. I reckon he can win it. Mark Purdon doing the steering, of course. But he's an absolute cracking top 3, top 4 chance. I thought his trial was really, really good. And Mark hasn't driven too many winners of the sales race, if you like, Jack Cade being the only one. So he'll be looking to do it again. I just thought he was a bet for mine. I think Merlin's the horse to beat, but I reckon you could back Sinbad with a bit of confidence to make the top 4. Now, Kyle Marshall, you mentioned, has made a mature decision to put Tony Hurley on. You did some work for Trot's Vision and caught up with Kyle because he's about to head across the Tasman permanently.
Well, Kyle Marshall, pretty exciting time in your life, moving to Victoria and more directly, Cranbourne.
Yeah, no, really looking forward to it. I was there 9 years ago with Brent Lilly, did a stint for 18 months, and I've always wanted to get back to Melbourne and give it a shot, and now's the right time. Cranbourne's been a huge help to get me over there, so yeah, really looking forward to it.
What are you hoping to achieve with this move?
Just at the moment where racing is, I just want to really give it a good crack, get to Cranbourne, just a lot more opportunities in Australia, and I got a couple of horses that probably benefit racing over there, so take them over, look for new owners, and just really look to win as many races as we can.
Cranbourne very proactive about maintaining ownership bases, about getting young people like yourself across there and giving them the right facilities. It must be a real hand up to make the Trans-Tasman move with them behind you.
Yeah, it's definitely, with Cranbourne having a training centre there with everything you need. You got a swimming pool, treadmill, walker, a good track. So yeah, get over there, walk into nice facilities, and the horses really like it there. So I mean, went over there in November, and yeah, it just looked amazing. And with Cranbourne Club, they're helping us syndicate and get new owners and get my name out there.
Are you open to New Zealand horses who people think may be better suited in Victoria joining you for the move?
Yeah, well, I've got a lot of support with the owners that I have around me at the moment. I couldn't be happier with that. So the horses that I have in training now, they're all keen to get over there and have their horses racing there. And with Cranbourne, we're looking to get as many horses as we can with owners over there. Rather than selling them, we can sort of facilitate having owners stay in their horses with the travel fees subsidised, and really have your horse racing in Aussie and still have a lot of fun.
It can be hard training horses in the North Island, where often there's only one race meeting a week. I suppose now there's a smorgasbord of options for you, including racing almost any day you want.
Yeah, Cranbourne hold 25 meetings a year, and within 2 hours of Cranbourne there's near 200 meetings, so there's a lot of opportunities for your horse to race and a lot of racing.
The sales season is upon us. Will you be looking to go to both sets of sales, or concentrating more on the Australian sales with the Vic bonuses available to horses that you purchase there?
Yeah, in New Zealand I went out to Brecon Farms and made the parade there, and they have outstanding looking animals. The New Zealand sale is a strong sale, and they have top quality horses, so I'll be there looking. Hopefully we can pick up one or two up and look at that. But the Melbourne sales with the Vic bred bonus, it's just a no-brainer. You get a Vic bred horse, and if you win a race you get 12 grand back, and they have Vic bred races worth 200 grand, so they're really good breeders bonuses and racing bonuses.
If somebody thinks this sounds like a train at Cranbourne, they might like to jump aboard. How do they find out more about Kyle Marshall, or in fact more about what's going on with the Cranbourne Trotting Club?
Just on Facebook. I got a website, kylemarshallracing.com. My number, you can get hold of me, that's 027 324 1935. My phone's always open, and yeah, I'm just really looking forward to getting over there and having a fresh start and giving it the best shot I can.
So I think it's a pretty important decision in his life, Michael, and he seems to have taken it in his stride and appears to be very, very at ease with heading to Cranbourne.
Well, he's lived in Victoria before. Most importantly, his partner Sophie's going with him, so he's got that support there, and he can support her. But he's also at a time in his life, Greg, where he's developing as a man. Like, he's becoming more articulate to talk to. He's thinking forward, what do I want out of my life? I've been impressed by my times with Kyle recently, our conversations on the phone and that conversation. I think he'll do a good job. And Cranbourne has a great training setup. David Scott, the chief executive there, they're very proactive. They'll support this young man. He's going to take a good horse with him in Son of Mac, who would do a really good job over there. So, yep, I think he'll be successful over there. How successful, that will be up to him, and how much more drive he's got, Greg. But good on him for having a crack. As I always say to young people, Greg, whether they're leaving Greymouth to move to Auckland, whether they're leaving New Zealand to move to Australia, it's always going to be there. You can always come home. You can always go back. Never be scared to take the big leap. And
Are you heading back to Greymouth? Are you thinking about it?
There's no studio, Greg, actually in Greymouth. Otherwise, I would go back there. I actually couldn't. Bizarrely, I couldn't get a job in Greymouth when I was there, Greg, because the Greymouth Evening Star thought I was too big for my boots.
Right.
They might have been right.
They were onto it early, weren't they?
Back to Kyle Marshall. Good on him. I'm proud of him, and I'm sure David's dad is too. So, look, he'll do a good job over there. And well done to Cranbrook. They went out a year ago, Greg, and said, we want to get a good young New Zealand trainer to come over here. They did their due diligence. They've encouraged Kyle to come across there, and they've been really supportive of him. That's the sort of proactivity we need from harness racing administrators if we're going to get ahead, because, Greg, you build these things one brick at a time.
Yep, absolutely you do. All right, one brick we've looked at is the 200,000 New Zealand Bloodstock Harness Million. Let's have a look at the $150,000 race for the fillies. You mentioned Sue Citra before. This is her winning at the workouts, Michael. Couldn't have gone any better. Yes, it was against maidens and that's all fine. Has been a recent addition to the Purden barn. Was formerly trained by Darren Keast. It's owned by the Renwicks, and 56.627.7. You might remember her having her first start and only start at Addington Raceway, where she actually fell. She was going to run in the money. She's got a bit rough in her gait, but she's always had really good ability. She'll need it this week though, Michael, because she's up against the unbeaten Millwood Nike, who's drawn to her inside. I think those two will fight it out. We've got $1.15 or so, $1 pretty short, isn't it? Millwood Nike, $6 Sue Citra, and the rest of them, it's pretty much write your own ticket.
Yeah, so I think Millwood Nike, Greg, everybody just runs through their multis. I mean, she'll just be winning unless she underperforms, so she'll be too good. So Citra's obviously a really interesting horse, as you mentioned, was looming up to win or run second on debut and just got rough in its gait and fell over, but it wasn't a fall a horse would take any major harm from, mentally or physically. Looked really good there, and you could make a case she's one of the better maidens in the country. So doubt she'll win this week because Millwood Nike's so good. A little bit disappointed by the form of this race, Greg. I think Millwood Nike scared a few horses away, and the long back end to the season now is undoubtedly affecting some of these early season races. But we can't blame that because the boys' race is quite strong, albeit Don't Start Dreaming's going to be there. So not going to be there. It's interesting, Greg, I think, and I'm seeing it in both countries. This week, for example, there's heats of the New South Wales Oaks and there's no Emma Stewart horses there. With the seasons now flicking over, but essentially the same bunch of horses being asked to do the same bunch of things, I think we're going to see a lot more early season races, Greg, January, February races, where we don't get to see all the stars together. So I'm not sure we got that right, but I'm not sure what we can do about it.
Yeah, and make sure you stick around too, because you mentioned across the Tasman with Garrards, we'll be having a good look at the Chariots, which is of course on Saturday night. Third of the features on Friday night out of Cambridge is the HR Fiskins Breeders, and Double Delight, well, she's all quality. This is her getting the lead here late in the piece, and Downing Escape the Pace, who's also a race rival this week. Resolves back off 40 metres with her Michael, and this is going to be one heck of a battle. Not often you'd look at a race and go the two back markers off 40 metres should fight out the finish, but they're the two best in it this week.
The key factor, Greg, is this is a small field. The field you're seeing here was a small field, and Double Delight and Tony Hurley were able to get around and sit parked at their leisure. Now that may happen this week, but it's a full field, and it's rare to see a full standing start field at Cambridge in an intermediate or better grade race. So what you have is the horses off the front are going to put the foot down and try and run them off their feet. So they should be able, the front markers, to go 3:31, 3:30. There should be a horse on the front line who can do that. Now, Resolve can go 3:26 and Double Delight can go the same, even though she went 3:28 there. So the question is, does anybody get in their way? If they trot all the way, if everybody trots all the way, do other horses get in their way? Do they pull out in front of them? Or do the horses off the front drive to beat them? And that's the whole question of the race, because they're the two best horses there, and they should, one of them, win, Greg. But I'm reluctant in a 13, 12, 13, 14 horse field to back markers a lot more so than the same back mark in a 6 or 8 horse field, Greg, because there's just simply more horses to get in your way.
Yeah, absolutely there are. $4 Resolve, $3 Double Delight, $8.50 Escape the Pace, and then off the front, probably the best backed is Faith in Manchester. We need to have a look at the Young Guns heat, the first of those. It is the fourth on the program. We've got a couple of trialists to have a look at for you. Here's Spirit of Anarchy. Blair Orange driving for the Dalgetties, unbeaten at the trials, Michael, home in 57.27. Pretty smart sort of type, this guy, and he's not going to have an easy time of it first up because he's drawn awkwardly on the second row, but he certainly has the ability and he wants to win here. He actually fights back and wins quite nicely in the end.
Nice big chunky horse too, obviously a developed 2-year-old, nice big strong horse. We talk about getting things right or wrong. As we see, this is the trial last week at Pukekohe, so this is your...
Doing amazing, sweetie.
That's exactly what I thought you were going to say, Greg.
Yep.
So that's I spoke to Tony Hurley recently about his 2-year-olds, and he said this is the most advanced of them. This is a homebred one, and he said it's the most advanced, as you can see there. Nice, big, strong type of a horse. So I do think this 2-year-old season starting later, Greg, helps because this is the first Young Guns heat. It's a full field, so that's really cool. What it means for the punters, I have no idea. Probably Cold Chisel from Barrier 1s I like, Greg, because after watching these races for years, horses who get back in them, Greg, just never win.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying it won't happen here because we are now in February and these horses are a lot more advanced than they would have been a long time ago in this situation. But, gee, it's hard getting back in the field, pulling to the outside, on a bend, at speed and sprinting. So, yeah, it might happen. But I always want to be on these races, Greg, on the horse on the marker pegs. Often you see the horses on the marker pegs winning these races in February, and by April or May they've been usurped by the other horses. But it doesn't matter if it's gallops or harness. I don't want to be on horses coming back and wide in the first 2-year-old race of the season. So I don't really know what's going to happen here, Greg, but I know what I don't want to do, and that's be backing horses back in the field.
As I mentioned, it's the Auckland Trotting Club meeting at Cambridge. They have a charter bus which leaves Alexandra Park at 3 o'clock and stops at the Doubletree Hilton there at Karaka about 4:10. If you want to get on that, get online, go to Alexandra Park, check it out, or Alex Park, and I think it's $40 and you'll be home not too late, I would say. It's a pretty good way to get to the races, and good on the ATC putting on that bus. All right, good luck to Cambridge too. Looking forward to the action there on Friday night. They race alongside Addington Raceway's got a lower grade meeting, but quality horse there. Michael Muscle Mountain takes his place once again. This is him resuming. It was his first up run. Of course, this was in the summer free-for-all. He won the New Zealand free-for-all at his last start, and he beats Oscar Bonavina, and he takes on a field he should take care of this week. Probably his biggest challenges might be his stablemate, Midnight Dash.
And we know Midnight Dash, all things being equal, can't beat Muscle Mountain. Oscar Bonavina, when you look at that video there, Oscar's not there this week. So he's been a massive gap on the rest. He should be fitter, should be an absolute multi-maker. No reason, Greg, if you like a horse this week, you can't multi it with Muscle Mountain and Millwood Nike, and I don't know, add $1.30 or 30% to your bet. So if any bet you're having this weekend, that makes sense because they quite simply both should lead and both should win.
Yeah, I agree there, and I also think there's a good each way chance in race number 9, the Coleman. Have a look at this one in the Team Teal colours. Back in the field, angling for a run, doesn't get out till late, hits the line really strongly. The reason I like him this week is he won his first start, or his first win anyway, was over 2,000 metre stand at Addington, and he just dashed to the line, and he did that here as well. So he's probably not well rated for this race, but I reckon he'll be hard to beat. The hardest for him to beat might be Sporty Charlie, who is clearly talented enough, won at the Cup meeting for Colin and Julie DeFilippi, and yeah, I expect him to go a pretty good race this week. 2,000 metres stand can be slightly tricky though. There's a look at the 2 Friday night meetings for the domestic action here in New Zealand this week. We'll take a short break, and on the other side we've got plenty more to get into, including reviewing the Group 1 glory of Kelly's Delight last week. Welcome back into your box seat. Yes, brought to you by our stable of sponsors. A massive thank you to them once again. Addington Raceway last Friday night, first Group 1 of the season. It was for the mares, it was for $90,000. It unfolded like this. Barrier draws had a big part to play. Lady of the Light in front, Kelly's Delight in the trail. All American Lover had another tough run, parked out. Giselle goes a very good race here, and Manhattan hits the line too. We'll get Matthew Cross to bring them home and hear from the connections of the top 3 post-race.
Kelly's Delight with a narrow lead from Lady of the Light, but it's little Kelly's Delight for the Group 1. Kelly's Delight a neck of the line, beat Lady of the Light in Joe's Rock. Fourth is a photo.
Group 1, Bob Butt. That's got a pretty good ring to it.
Real good ring.
Yeah, look, great performance from your mare tonight. Yes, she had a few favours, but you always thought she was capable of delivering at Group 1 level, and now she has.
Yeah, for sure. She deserves it, the old girl. She's always been real honest against the mares, and sort of had to been driven for one run against them all the time, and sometimes, you know, a lot of the time she hadn't had the breaks, but tonight she got them and worked out great.
What do you do with her now? Because I suppose this was her grand final. This was particularly for the owners, who there's a decent group of them here tonight, and they're just loving it. And yeah, what do you do with her now?
I mean, she's high rated now, and so I suppose she's just got to sort of pop around in those sort of free-for-all races through the autumn and winter, you know. That's just where she sort of sits now.
Yeah. She's pretty valuable now, though.
Oh, she is, and she'll be a great broodmare. She's just a sweetheart of a girl, you know. You wouldn't get a nicer horse, so she'll hopefully her progeny in the future do a good job.
Right, the green with the white sleeves. The run continues. Congratulations.
Thanks, mate.
Well, you've probably got some disappointed owners just behind you, but gee, she was brave.
Yeah, that's right, Greg. You know, yeah, she has had a bit of unluckiness with some of her barrier draws, and bits and pieces just haven't gone her way. But today with the barrier draw, I thought Jimmy drove her fantastic, and we got beat by a better one on the night, but I was wrapped with her performance, and just gives us a bit more confidence going on for the rest of the season.
Yeah. So what do you do with her now?
I haven't made too many plans, Greg, but I was just talking to the owners, and you know, we've got probably a fairly nice horse, and even something like Australia maybe later on, but I think I'll probably just give her a wee spell now.
Gee, you'd be wrapped with that.
Yeah, no, she went super, yeah. I was pretty rapt for her, yeah.
Look, it was always going to be a grand final of sorts with her, and the way she's hit the line, she's proved she's right up to it.
Yeah, she just loves that distance, and she's, I didn't bring her up for the 2001, and I wanted to take off that. She's better than spaced, and yeah, just could be more happier, yeah.
All right, what do you do with her now? What's the plan?
We let up, and then she'll just go the mares races down home for that final for the speed bell, and then maybe a couple of country cups, and then I don't want to race her too much and look after her this year. It's only a wee girl, so yeah. So.
And she's come a long way.
Oh yeah, she's just so consistent now. That's the best thing about it. She's so consistent. So yeah, wrapped with her, yeah.
Yeah, very good run from Joe's Rock by Racing Hill, so that's something a little bit different too. Just on the winner though, Michael, we subsequently got the news through from the Bob Buck camp that Kelly's Delight will be retired now, which again is slightly disappointing because obviously she's got to the top of the tree in terms of the mares and got a Group 1 win, but he feels that she's pretty highly rated now and it's going to be incredibly difficult for her, but she deserved that win. Yes, she had the favour of sitting in the trail, but Lady of the Light got close. She was coming back at the line.
Yeah, very brave, the second horse. Kelly's Delight's always had that gate speed, and she's from a family which has genuine ability. She'll do a pretty good job as a broodmare, you would hope. Lady of the Light has options. I think she'd be a really good Menangle horse because she's a big rolling type of a horse, and thrilled for Joe's Rock. I didn't realise how small she was until I saw that little video there of her and Brett, so that's really cool. Really cool story for three of not the biggest barns, even though Bob Butt's training about 50 winners a year here, Greg, to get those Group 1s. Still annoys me that Group 1s and how hard they were to work for that effectively isn't much more glamorous than pacing 159.9 around Ashburton, Greg. I mean, our black tight system's completely screwed up.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not sure who's going to fix this. No one seems to care. I go on about it every year and no one seems to give a shit. But 159.9, any horse, any pacer in New Zealand could go 2 minutes around Ashburton. Any horse who's qualified in New Zealand could do it, which means every pacer in New Zealand's a black type horse.
Yep.
Cool. Well, those poor horses like Joe's Rock had to go all the way up the State Highway 1 to go there, race its butt off, and gets black type. How we've ended up in a situation where our black type is relatively useless, and how no one listening to this is going to fix it. All you need to do is just walk into a HRNZ meeting, say we're changing it to 155, trotters 2 minutes 158. That's it.
Done.
And until we do that, Greg, what's the point of having Group 1 races? Our Group 1 races are useless because they don't mean anything. And I know that sounds like a rant and a rave, but it's also true. When you're in the galloping code, and I do both, and many people watching this do, black type's what it's all about. That's what they earn, that's what gets in the catalogue. And when I go for the catalogue this week for Karaka, and I've ingested this thing into my life, there's a whole bunch of horses here, Greg. Take Ashburton's on his back. What about Menangle? You could send the worst pacer, qualified pacer in New Zealand, the worst one we own, and it would break 2 minutes at Menangle, Greg.
Yep.
For those horses who raced really hard, and Kelly's Delight, who's tried its little harder every week for 60 odd starts, we've got to change this. And just walk into a meeting and do it, and if the breeders complain, say, no, enough nonsense. Because, Greg, we're living in the 1960s with our black tie system.
No, absolutely we are. Well said, and hopefully one day someone might listen. I'll tell you what, a guy who absolutely is doing a great job had the 4th place getter in that, in Giselle, Matt Purvis. I got a chance to chat to him on Friday night about the last season and the success of his barn. Matt, congratulations on last season. To make the top 10 in the Trainers' Premiership must have been really satisfying.
Yeah, I had a great season there. I was lucky with a few of the horses we got that really sort of did a great job through the winter and early part of the season, and it was good to kick on in the summer months and sort of had a few moments there I was questioning myself, but it was good to get the results.
Speaking of moments, my moments now, didn't she just do an amazing job for you?
Yep, she was one of the horses I started. I was very lucky the old man put a lot of faith in me. She was a headache early on, but now she's clicked onto it. She's doing a hell of a job.
All right, are you a man that sets a goal, and now that you've got yourself well into the 40s in a season, do you shoot for 50 this season? Is that something you're aiming for?
Yeah, I like to strive to do better each season in that, and sort of last season was pretty good, but I got some nice young horsepower this year, so hopefully I can go close again.
Yearling sales time. You're heading to the sales with a little bit of budget. You could always do with a little bit more, but what do you look for in a yearling? What are the things that tick the Matt Purvis boxes?
Oh, definitely it's good to go with a bit more of a budget, but going into it, I study a bit on the page, but type's more the thing I look for. Like we've bought 2 the last 2 years, and that. And first year we bought the Don Juan. He's come out as a 2-year-old and done a nice job at the late part of the season, but he just had the old kind eye about him and just seemed a gentleman about everything that he did, and sort of had a great moving action, and sort of I was being wrapped with the 2 I have bought. So hopefully I'm probably looking towards buying a couple of fillies this year if I can, and hopefully we can carry on with the results.
Right. What about in terms of people who might want to get involved in the Matt Purvis setup? How do they get hold of you? Is it best to get your number and your email off HRNZ, and have you got room?
Always got room. I'm happy to take anything really. But yeah, definitely I've got my Facebook page, Matt Purvis Racing Tables, or my number or anything's on, and we sort of accommodate to everyone.
Congratulations again on season 2022. Outstanding for you. Keep going well, and good luck over sales week.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Greg.
Yeah, nice young man he is. He's doing a very good job. Got his 100th win earlier on last year with Weir's Daddy, I think it was, down at Timaru. And I think it's important, Michael, that we profile guys like him. We showed Bob Butt the week before, and they're really developing into some pretty good sort of horse people, and that's something the industry should be proud of.
Yes, and most importantly, Greg, it's sales week, and they're going to drive sales. They may not buy that many horses, but underbidders are crucially important at sales. But Mark Purdon's not going to go to the sales and buy 35. Obviously, we've heard he's having a slight change of the way he views his future. Either's Barry, either's Cran and Chrissy. Those trainers are still going to buy, and they're going to buy at the top level. But the Nathan Williamsons, the Bob Butts, guys like Matt Purvis, those guys coming through, and Bob Butt, if they pick up 2 or 3 or 4 horses, and hey, I hope they get more, and Kyle Marshall, that's crucial, Greg, because if you don't have those people coming through, and they're also more attractive to young owners. If I'm a 25-year-old guy who plays a bit of rugby, living in Christchurch, I don't want to get a horse with Mark Purden or Barry Purden. I don't know them, but I might know Matt Purvis. You know, I might know somebody that age. I might like to have a beer with Bob Butt. And I think that's really crucial. And I think that's where those guys should be aiming and saying to people, hey, get 10 of your mates together, let's do this. But those young guys and girls, there's also lots of young, wonderful female trainers in the industry, Greg. They're going to drive the sale next week, because without them, you have a really strong top and a huge gap.
Yep.
So it's important, and it's important people support them, or at least shows like this give them a chance to say their piece, because without them, Greg, we have a lot of our horses who are purchased go to those top 3 or 4 or 5, 6 trainers, but our top 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 trainers, most of them are you're my age. And that's not the future of the industry.
No, absolutely, it's not. Another guy who is the future is Regan Todd, and he's got Coravelli Star, absolutely low flying at the moment. The mile start, perfect for this horse, placed behind a Cooter and better than 52 at Nelson over a year ago. Of course, won the Green Mile, got the business done here in 52.4. That's outside Vice Chairman's record of 51.9, but very brave. Of course, Krug, the other talking point out of the race. We'll hear from both Regan and Crandell Giddy post-race.
Coravelli Star wanted a neck at the line from Mighty Louis. Henry Hubert ran third.
Well, if there was a race perfect for Coravelli Star, I think we just watched it.
Yeah, no, that was great for him, really. Just with the draw and that, had to make most of it. But yeah, he feels big and brave out in front like that. But yeah, it was quite hard for those others running that time.
Look, he's done it twice now, Green Mile now at Addington. Does that encourage you to think that that is his modus in life, and that maybe Menangle might be a beckoning?
Yeah, definitely stay away from the country cups now. It's just not working out for him getting too far back. So even Auckland might take him up there for a couple of runs, but I think Menangle would love it over there.
Cran tonight was a fact-finding mission. Did we find out enough to head across the Tasman?
Yes, it was a bit of a criteria of many things went against our way. It was a bit of a graveyard for the punters. Statistically, he was the better horse in the field, but a mile start here at Addington, and he was working really hard early and then sat parked, and they went a fast time, so it looks like he's run an average 5th, but that's just the way that mathematically we were against it, because the railers just have it on you.
Look, he's only a length and a half from the winner, and they've gone pretty close to the track record, so that would tell you that A, he's gone very good, and he had a big blow after it, I noticed.
Yes, that's very true, because he hasn't. We use this as a glorified trial, sure, there to win and tried to win naturally, but yeah, since he's lazy, he's had a light time off, and he's been on the water walker at Brian Courts, and so he's had a lot of downtime, and being a colt now, or a stallion we're going to call him now, 5-year-old, they just get a bit grosser quick. So statistically you think, oh geez, that's an average run, but we're not worried, we're driving on.
All right, so he heads across the Tasman when?
He's actually going to Auckland on Sunday. He'll be there for a week, and then he'll fly across the week later, and then all going well, we'll run in the heats on the 25th at Menangle.
All right, good to get that update on Krug. Across the Tasman, we need to move now with Garrards and go back to last week. Have a look at He's a Son of a Gun here, Michael. Can't find a better man in front. Invitation Only was in this. One of the big talk horses out of Victoria, Catch a Wave. But He's a Son of a Gun's no slouch, is he? That was win number 10 from just 33 starts.
Got the trail, got the run. He was good. He's in the Chariots of Fire this week. This is obviously the second of the qualifiers, but he hasn't been able to get within the cooee of Captain Ravishing in Victoria. And this week they all head to the Chariots of Fire, where Captain Ravishing has drawn barrier 1. So he'll possibly get crossed off the gate, Greg, but he's sat parked to win most of his races, and if he's as good as everybody tells me he is, he probably should win this as well. So there'll be a little bit of maybe a tricky moment at the start where people are a bit worried, but when they blast off the gate at Menangle, Greg, they do tend to open up, and there tends to be gaps for a big, strong horse like Captain Ravishing to get off. So he should win the Chariots of Fire on his best form. The Emma Stewart trained horses tend to take their Victorian form to Menangle and carry on, whereas some barns don't. But it's going to be a good race. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. The bottom line is this: as much as we get carried away with gate speed and where he's drawn and what's going to happen at the start, he's the favourite for the Miracle Mile, and none of these other horses would even fit into a Miracle Mile, Greg.
Yep.
So he should win.
So he's $1.25, all right?
Yeah, absolutely can't take that.
Where does Republican Party fit into the mix? And what would need to unfold for realistically a top 3 finish would be ticking a box, I would have thought.
They'll go across at the start. If he can get somewhere in the running line and be comfortable, great, because the horses in the back half of the field will have no chance. They'll probably go 48 or 49 or something. Yeah. Captain Ravishing is a genuine superstar in the making. The high bottom's way too big, but that's every horse who ever comes out of Victoria. And he'll find his own place in the world. He should win this. Then the step up to the Miracle Mile starts, which is a significant step up. But this week, what we've seen recently is the Chariots of Fire has been a very good Miracle Mile trial.
It has been.
Because they're getting nice, hard racing into them. Also this week, the Newcastle Miles on, Greg, which we had the 2 Kiwis in, of course, and that's also a qualifier for the Miracle Mile. So a lot in play in New South Wales this week.
Let's move on to the Siberia Stakes, and low flying at the moment is Braveview Kelly. Michael, Stylish Memphis, slightly disappointing out of the race. Madrid was in second, 150.4. This is clearly the best lead-up race as we head towards the Queen Elizabeth next week.
Yeah, look, Braveview Kelly's probably usurped Stylish Memphis. So Stylish Memphis is there coming out of the 1-1 and not running past a horse. So she's won the Queen Elizabeth the last couple of years, but Braveview Kelly's in better form. Spoke to Cam Hart, who drove Braveview Kelly, about that. He said, our horse is right in the zone. Stylish Memphis has probably got one more start, Greg, then she'll retire because she's in foal. So maybe she'll turn it around. Often horses can, on their last start, have these fairy tale performances. There's another lead up this week to the Queen Elizabeth, which used to be called the Ladyship Mile, for Ladies' Night next week. Horses like Tay Tay and those sort of horses are in there, Greg. But both sides of the Tasman, we don't have a glamour mare. Ladies in Red, their best mare is in the paddock and may not come back. And of course, we've retired a couple of hours. So everything's in play at the moment, Greg. But Braveview Kelly, a deserved favourite for next week, if in fact she draws well and can get to the marker pegs with someone like Cam Hart and the sulky.
Yeah, that Robin Dundee this week, $2 for Tay Tay, certainly looks the one to beat there. You mentioned the Newcastle Mile, the market, and of course the Kiwis getting great advantage here. BD Joe, Michael, at $1.70. $7 for Alta Wise Guy. Luke McCarthy will do the driving. That's where the Telfer horses, Telfer Cullen horses are stabled. What do you see happening at the start there? Is it a case around Newcastle that BD Joe should and they should intend to stay in front because that's where he can win the race?
Well, they'll be trying, yeah, absolutely. One of Jules in front, and we know how good he is in front. Newcastle, they can often get a roll on from barriers 4, 5 or 6. The mile starts down the back straight, and often with back straight starting positions, you have that ability to roll out, you know, because they come around the bend, Greg, and they'll get a real head of steam up. Yeah. He might get crossed. You know, there's some pretty good horses in there. There's no superstars in there. Of course, Bondi Lockdown, who won last week, is waiting for the preludes next week. If he leads BD Joe, he should win. If he gets crossed, then he's in the lap of the gods to tempo, getting a gap, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I won't be backing him. I hope he wins. I want to see him in the Miracle Mile. Yeah, it's a tricky race. Tricky race, Greg. Don't want to be taking $1.70 about him because so much depends on the start. But it's not the best of the best because they're being split between next week. No Honolulu Bays, those type of horses there, and obviously the Chariots of Fire.
Yep, 10:40, that'll be on Friday night. Brilliant night of racing, both sides of the Tasman. Let's have a look at Bondi Lockdown because he has been super since resuming. Beating Torrid Saint here, who we know is good enough to be placed in the Inter-Dominion final, but it's good to have this horse back. 150.5, he really stretches out wide here, Michael, and he's now won 14 of his 34 starts.
And he's a better horse than his record suggests. That's him outside in Luke's colours now. So he gets over top of them, not by much, but after the line he's going away from them. And he's very, very good, Bondi Lockdown. We haven't seen Luke have the opportunity to use his gate speed yet. We'll have to see that at some stage because the Miracle Mile's a hard race to win from off the pace. But where he chimes into the open class races, Greg, I think it's going to depend on how tired a Honolulu Bay and those type of horses are after Inter-Dominions and Hunter Cups, and I don't know the answer to that. He didn't look very tired in the Hunter Cup, did he? So it's going to be interesting, the Miracle Mile. I think there's going to be a Miracle Mile with the 2 preludes, what we see out of the Chariots and what we see out of Newcastle, Greg, where there might be 10 winning chances in the Miracle Mile. And I know that not all 10 are going to get into the field, I realise that. But I'm saying at the moment there might be 10. There's no reason to think BD Joe can't win a Miracle Mile. Obviously Luke's horses can. We've got the Grimson horses there. We've got Emma Stewart's horses coming in. It's a really interesting time, Greg. And when you go back over the Grand Circuit for the last sort of 6 months over there, pretty much different horses win all the time. The only races you double up in are the Len Smith Mile into the Inter-Dominion for I Cast No Shadow.
Yep.
The rest of them are pretty much different horses winning different races. And what we've seen in the last 10 years is that the Hunter Cup form, it's only 4 weeks from the Hunter Cup to the Miracle Mile. Very few horses star in both races. King of Swing did it. But Greg, very few horses do it because it's a vastly different type of racing. So I'm really intrigued to see how the next couple of weeks goes.
Yeah, there's a half to I Cast No Shadow, of course, in the sale, and half to King of Swing in the sale as well for the Breckens team. So, yeah, with that sale view this week, there's certainly plenty happening both sides of the Tasman. An expat Kiwi one. First up over there, Typo's his name. Gee, he was good here. You see him in the Brad Hewitt checkers there, angling for a run. He actually got a wee holiday, Brad, for some of his steering there, but he's always been a real smarty. 151.8. I can see him, yeah, going on with it over there. He gets a bit rough in his gait there, Michael, but he really wants to find the line, and he can pick up plenty of money, I think.
Yeah, usually when they go to Menangle, Greg, they take a couple of runs to win over a mile because it's such a different burn. But he was coming out of chasing around some pretty good horses. So, yeah, I agree. He'll end up in free-for-all grade really quickly. Then there's 2 levels of free-for-alls at Menangle. There's that McCarthy-Grimson type free-for-all, which is bloody hard to win. And then there's that secondary one when the other horses are at the carnivals. And I think he'll place into that secondary bunch of free-for-allers pretty quickly.
Yeah, totally agree with that. While we're still in Australia, we need to go and have a look at Majestic Man's last performance. That's him in front, or latest performance. Plymouth Chubb, who won a heat of the Great Southern Star, getting to the outside, and an appropriate win here too. Of course, the Night Pistol, the name of this race, and well, what they achieved with Night Pistol to be able to win it again, the Mannings, was something pretty special.
Yeah, good young horse this. Came out of a strong 3-year-old crop last season. Everybody loves Kieran Manning. She's an absolute champion, one of my favourite people in harness racing. Her and her father Pete had Night Pistol, obviously. Plymouth Chubb's no Night Pistol, but he'll probably rack up about 150 starts, Greg, because he's one of those horses who just loves it. He gets out there, he's got gate speed. He's one of the new bunch who are eventually going to take over from the older horses, because like Majestic Man, Greg, a lot of these horses are getting older. But yeah, I'm always happy to see Kieran win a race. She's one of those people who's never changed, Greg, and I hope she never does.
Yeah, absolutely. So 4 starts over there, Majestic Man. He won nearly 50,000, so he's earned his right to be over there again. But I reckon his best performance was probably first up when he won the Dullard. Outside of that, it probably hasn't been to his absolute peak. Is that fair, you reckon?
Yeah, well, mate, it cost about 20,000 to go to Australia. Add in some airfares for Brad going backwards and the forward, maybe it cost you 30. But he's won that. The owners are thrilled. Everyone's happy. What do you do with him? He's not going to make a show jumper, Greg. I mean, you've got to go round. Can come home now. It'd be really tempting to leave him there, but you say for a syndicate, do you get any enjoyment out of your horse racing in Australia if you leave him there long term? So it is hard with a horse like him, because you know Muscle Mountain's here and you know Sunday Sun's here. And 9 times out of 10, you're not going to beat them. So I'd be tempted to leave him there, give him to a good trainer, maybe an Andy Gath type person. He's got Majestuoso, so you might go somewhere else and say, hey, you look after him, make sure he's loved, give him to Anthony Butt. That's what I'd do, Greg, because I think he can still win money over there week in, week out, whereas I don't think he's going to win many races here with those 2 big giant judder bars in his way.
We showed you Typo before, an ex-Anna Donnelly runner. Outlaw Man's another one that just keeps on winning. I think he's won 7 from 8 since heading over there. So the Kiwis doing the job across the Tasman. With our stable of sponsors, stick with us. On the other side, we will have a look at some of the Renwick Farms draft for next week's New Zealand Bloodstock sale, and hopefully find you a winner or two. In your home straight, in your box seat, as mentioned, the Renwick Farms draft of 15 is a very strong one. Let's have another look at the brother to Akuta. This is lot 199. He's by Bettor's Delight, of course, out of A Door to Our Dreams. His sister, Lady Ivana's, won about 9 or 10 in Australia for Grant Dixon. Fulfill the Dreams has won about 5 in WA. And Aroda won first up for Grant Dixon and actually won again on Tuesday. He's a beautiful colt. I'm sure he's going to be very sought after and will be one of the stars for the Renwick Farms draft. That's lot 199, the Bettor's Delight, A Door to Our Dreams brother to Akuta, the dual derby winner. Lot 316, this is a Bettor's Delight Bay filly out of Louisiana Belle Midfru. Plenty of breeding about her. She won 5, including the Group 1 New Zealand Standard Bred Breeders. She's a sister to Midfru Louisiana Beau, who won 4, and a half sister to Midfru Luca and Let's Go to the Hop, who's won about 8. So there is a lot of blood in the lines here around lot 316, the Bettor's Delight Bay filly out of Louisiana Belle Midfru. Lot 369 is a Bettor's Delight colt out of Scorcher, who won 4 races, is by Art Major, and is a half-sister to Burning, Ears Burning, Fuoko, who won 11. This is the same family as Franco Mack, who did such a good job for the All-Stars team. It's also the family of Sparks of Flyin', who was 3-year-old pacing filly of the year and won more than 20 races. So nice looking colt, Bettor's Delight colt, lot 369 out of Scorcher. The last one we'll have a look at for Renwick Farms is lot 376. This is a Bettor's Delight Bay filly out of Salandra. Good, strong type, this one. Salandra won a race and has left 5 foals to race for 4 winners. Samskara, who won 8, Samhara and Sadhita. They've won half a dozen races each, and of course Susitra is in the Harness Millions on Friday night. So lot 376. The pedigree page could change a wee bit off the back of the New Zealand Bloodstock Harness Million on Friday night at Cambridge. The Rangiora Classic is this week. Franco Marek was very unlucky the last time, stormed home behind the likes of Samstown and Homebush Lad. To Greg Wright and the team there at Rangiora, it's their 75th celebration, so they'll be looking forward to Saturday and welcome everyone to come out and celebrate with them. Why wouldn't they? 75 years. I think they had to put it back a couple of years due to COVID and a couple of other things. Team Teal's going very, very well. They're up over $11,000. Sarah O'Reilly's leading the way with 4 wins. Cherie Tomlinson, Olivia Thornley, Kieran Tomlinson all on 3. So 28 wins already for the Team Teal team. We race at Cambridge, of course, Thursday. We're also racing Manawatu, if you see this early enough, and Addington. They kick off just after 5 o'clock. That Rangiora meeting on Saturday, they race at 12 o'clock. Gore and Manawatu on Sunday, 12:40. And I think the Manawatu meeting, the transferred one, starts about 24 or 25 minutes past 12. Best bets of the week, Michael Guerin. We need to turn things around. So where are you heading? I think you're going to the big one on Friday night.
Yeah, I like Merlin. I think Merlin's a fair price, Greg. I think he got $3 when he opened. He's into about 2.4 now, but I just think he'll win. I just think Zach will get it right, and therefore he's the one to beat. And what's the race of the week? So we'll go for the race of the week, Greg. Just with the sales, make sure you are registered to bid online if you can't get there from around the country or watching this in Australia. Great team at NZBS. They put a lot of effort in. A guy like Michael Kneebone, who has a galloping background, has been that busy ringing vendors, ringing people like myself, getting information, Greg, to have these people at that level able to come in and sell our horses for us is a real bonus. That professionalism from both codes coming through NZB into NZBS is something we shouldn't take for granted, and I'm looking forward to seeing it in motion starting at noon on Sunday. Yeah,
quality auctioneer is Mike for sure. I went for Holy Hecker. I think he can win race 2. And Graham, he's gone for Sherlock, actually, to beat you, Michael. So he's going head-to-head there into Ajira in race number 9. That has been your box seat. A big thank you to our team at the TAB again, helping us get this through, and to Glenn Bourne and his family. Nice to have the power back on. To you, Michael, appreciate your time. We'll see you in a week. The box seat brought to you by our stable of sponsors. Harness Link for your worldwide harness coverage. New Zealand Bloodstock Standardbred where winning begins. Brecon Farms. Stonewall Stud. IRT, it's your horse and our passion. Australasian-wide Garrard's Horse and Hound. Ringwit Farms. Lincoln Farms. Harness Racing New Zealand and the clubs Addington, Ashburton, Alexandra Park and Cambridge.